Good evening, you're watching Estuary News, I'm Hugh Riches. In the headlines tonight, a deal is struck for a Scunthorpe retailer, a Hull woman to be tried in Egypt for drug offences, and one of the area's MPs visits Brussels to see how EU talks are progressing. And later in tonight's programme, I'll be joined by Lindsay Blow, telling me about this year's Care4All Christmas Shoebox Appeal, and before that, author Brian Lavery on the Luckiest 13. Scunthorpe-based retailer Nisa has been brought up by the Co-op Group. The decision was made today at a meeting in Leeds when shareholders voted by 3-1 to accept the group's offer. The £137.5 million deal still needs to be approved by the Competition and Markets Authority, though the Nisa board said the takeover was in the best interests of its members. Nisa is a member-owned business with over 3,000 stores. A Hull woman is set to be tried by a court in Egypt on drug offences. 33-year-old Laura Plummer was arrested after flying into Egypt with tramadol and naproxen in her suitcase. The painkillers are legal in the UK, but not in Egypt. She'd taken the drugs for her partner, who suffers back pain as a result of an accident. She'll remain in custody in the resort of Hurghada. The Member of Parliament for Cleethorpes has been in Brussels. Martin Vickers was on a visit to the European Parliament last week to hear from MEPs how Brexit negotiations are progressing. The UK's current contributions to the EU are around £13 billion a year, of which around £3 billion comes back to Britain every year. Mr Vickers, a strong Brexiteer, says the EU budget will need to be assessed so Britain gets a fair deal once the country leaves the EU.
There's concern that the budget, of which we contribute round about 1/8, will have to be thoroughly reviewed, and that will mean more payments falling on the shoulders of France, Germany and the other richer nations, whereas countries who are new to the Union, such as Bulgaria and Romania, who gain from membership, are clearly concerned that perhaps some of the projects planned there may not be fulfilled. But I think the underlying view, although there is some sadness that we are leaving, is that there's got to be a business-like approach to it. There's an acceptance that it will happen, and once you get below the level of the senior commissioners who tend to appear on the media, there are hundreds of officials beavering away to ensure that there will be a smooth transition.
Remembrance ceremonies took place at Commonwealth war graves and memorials this weekend to remember lives lost in battle. There are several war graves across our region dedicated to the fallen, including Alford Cemetery, where 19 casualties from the First and Second World Wars are buried. The Commonwealth War Graves Commission honours the 1.7 million men and women who died in battle and ensures they'll never be forgotten. Chris Hawes from the organisation explains the significance of the war graves.
Each nationality has a different shaped headstone. As you can see, the German headstone that has quite an angular top. But like I say, each nationality, the shape is different. There are also different shapes for Ministry of Defence headstones, and which are for casualties that occurred after the Second World War up to present day. It's a very small plot compared to some of the plots in France and Belgium. However, it still means the same, and that we still maintain them to the same standard as those abroad. I'm pretty sure that this plot now is now a closed plot. However, from time to time, servicemen are buried within churchyards, and now it is the Commonwealth War Graves Commission's responsibility now to maintain those graves.
A former company director has been jailed after tricking elderly residents into buying double glazing they didn't need. 36-year-old Mohammed Usman of West Yorkshire ran Eco Warm Home Improvements Limited in Bradford and targeted 10 customers from Hull. He admitted negligence, causing his company to commit offences under the Consumer Protection from Unfair Trading regulations. They happened between May 2015 and March 2016. Usman was sentenced to 12 months in prison at Hull Crown Court last week. That sentence suspended for 2 years. He was also fined £57,528. A multi-agency initiative to tackle underage drinking has been launched in Skegness. The town is the latest to benefit from the Community Alcohol Partnership, which aims to reduce the sale of alcohol to young people, advise them on the dangers of drinking, and engage with youth services and local charities. Over 150 schemes run across the UK. It brings together local authorities, police and health providers. The schemes are funded by the alcohol industry as part of their social responsibility. City of Culture has been absolutely terrific. That's the view of Hull musician and lawyer Margaret Pinder. It comes after Visit and Hull East Yorkshire announced they're now putting together a 5-year plan to build on Hull's legacy for the region after 2017. Over 1 million people are expected to have visited Hull by the end of this year. Tourism is expected to hit $1 billion by 2018. I was speaking to Margaret Pinder on tonight's Hot Topic.
We commissioned a work from Carl Jenkins that we performed in February, which was for the organ in the City Hall. We're repeating it this coming February. But it's not just what we've experienced musically. We've had the volunteers come to our concerts. We're playing open rehearsals for them as a thank you, and they're really enjoying it. There's been so much going on. I mean, the opening of the new theatre, with the ballet, the opera. I'd love to see Opera North come back. They used to come to Hull and they stopped. And I hope they will put us back on the itinerary. Obviously, I'm a classical musician, but Hull's always actually had quite a really vibrant cultural scene. It's just been allowed to come to the fore more. It's had more showcasing. We've always been a very cultured city.
And you can see that episode in full tonight at 8 o'clock here on Estuary TV. 8:30, I beg your pardon. Major engineering works are set to take place on the A15 this week. It's to replace the joints on the Humber Bridge. The open road toll lane and both lanes either side of the central reservation will be closed at the Hessel end of the Humber Bridge for 2 days. The works will take place from 9:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. tomorrow and overnight on Wednesday from 7 p.m. until 6 a.m. Motorists with Humber tag accounts will need to use the toll booths. Now, a new book tells the story of an incredible 2-day battle to save the St Finbar trawler and of those who tried to rescue her heroic crew in frozen seas. And I'm joined now by the author, Brian Lavery, to tell me a little bit more. Brian, welcome. Thanks very much for coming in. This is a terrifying tale of seaborne heroism.
Yeah, well, it's like the previous book, it moves from land to sea. So not only does it tell the story of a high seas drama, it also tells how people are affected in the home port, which of course was Hull. The very reason for the title. What happened is on Christmas Day in 1966, the St Finbar, which was effectively a super trawler, it cost in today's money £12 million. It was a super stern trawler. It was going to be the saviour of the fleet. And on its 13th voyage, actually, on the Grand Banks, just off Newfoundland, on Christmas Day, it exploded. There was an explosion on board, a massive fire followed, and 10 men were killed instantly. 2 men were killed in the rescue attempt that followed, and the rescue attempt itself was a massive display of bravery by a man called Eddie Woolridge, who commanded a trawler called the Orsino, which was on its maiden voyage, and the Orsino was the rescue ship. The main rescue ship involved with the St Finbar.
So were they Hull men as well, the rescuers?
That was a Hull trawler also. There was 30 ships went to its assistance, but the first to get there was Eddie Woolridge, and he was a friend of the skipper of the Finbar, who was a remarkable man called Tommy Sawyers. And Tommy Sawyers, just to illustrate the force of the blast, when Tommy Sawyers was giving his Mayday, it was on a VHF, which is it's like a telephone.
Yep.
And he was on the telephone receiver when the explosion had such force that it threw him out of the wheelhouse. He and the 18 windows of the wheelhouse were blown out, and he was blown onto the casing and was feared dead. And he was found on the casing with the telephone still in his hand on fire. Such was the force of the blast. But the fact was that because it happened on Christmas Day in 1966 fell on a Sunday, which meant there was no newspapers in Britain until the Wednesday, and there was no massive television presence. There was only 2 television stations in 1966. The BBC put out a broadcast saying that a Hull trawler was on fire on the Grand Banks. It said that some men were feared dead, but they didn't know how many.
Did we ever find out how the explosion occurred?
Yeah, there was a court of inquiry which was held exactly 50 years ago this week, and that found that what had happened was there was the insulation covering of the cabling behind the deckhead, that's the ceiling in a cabin, had constantly melted, and it built up an explosive gas, which had resulted in the final explosion, which caused the fire, which caused several more explosions. But the other remarkable thing was that the Orsino managed to get the remaining 15 men off on a raft, take them across, and 2 men died trying to climb onto the rescue ship. The title comes from one of the men who survived, who was a guy called Harry Prince, and Harry Prince was the cook who had remarkably survived another Christmas disaster 20 years earlier. And he was interviewed, they couldn't have picked a better man really, he was interviewed in the airport at St John, Newfoundland, and he said, "We must be the luckiest 13 men alive." But in Hull, meanwhile in Hull, nobody knew who were among the luckiest 13. And there was a journalist working at that time, a man called Victor Davis, who went on to become a great entertainment journalist, but at that time he was the New York correspondent of the Daily Express, when Daily Express was the greatest paper in the world then. And he called this The Quiet Disaster, which is the second part of the book.
Where can people get their hands on this, Brian?
Well, it's been on sale now since November the 9th, and you can get it in all good bookshops. You can get it through Waterstones, Amazon, and some ropey bookshops as well, I'd imagine.
Excellent, Brian. They're my favourite kind. Thank you very much for coming.
Okay, you're
Thanks
very
so
welcome here.
Join me after the break. Jack will bring us a roundup of the latest sports news, and Lindsay Blow will be here on how people can make a difference to the elderly this Christmas. Welcome back. You're watching Estuary News. Still to come tonight, Jack brings us a roundup of all the latest sports action, and I'll be talking to Lindsay Blow on Care4All's Christmas Shoebox Appeal. A pilot scheme has been launched in Scunthorpe targeted at mental health patients. It's a joint partnership with Northern Lincolnshire and Goole NHS Foundation Trust and Rotherham and South Humber NHS Foundation Trust to improve the care given to patients who are acutely ill or have suffered a minor injury. A care team made up of nurses and paramedics will be on call to visit patients at the Great Oaks Mental Health Unit in Scunthorpe rather than visiting A&E. It aims to reduce unnecessary A&E attendances. The project will be assessed once the pilot scheme is complete at the end of November. Bridlington has welcomed its new lifeboat. The Shannon class lifeboat is the first modern RNLI all-weather lifeboat to be powered by water jets and not propellers. It's 50% faster than previous lifeboats, ensuring that those in need, those in peril, are reached even faster. It'll be housed in a new purpose-built boathouse at a cost of £2.2 million. Seasonal art filled an East Hull community with colour over the weekend. The city's first winter wonderland was celebrated round Newbridge Road in Southcotes Lane and Rosemead Street. The area was turned into an art gallery with 25 displays. East Court Street Academy boasted the biggest display at 36, as 36 windows were decorated by pupils using chip shop wrapping paper to decorate the front along the general theme of remembrance. East Yorkshire was the first community to become part of a national initiative which aims to transform streets into magical outdoor galleries. The 10th Global Entrepreneurship Week was launched in Hull today. It aims to inspire the next generation of entrepreneurs in the city. 7 events will take place throughout the week to inspire, connect and engage future business leaders. The event's organisers hope that it demonstrates how small ideas can take root and become viable business plans, potentially growing into sustainable companies. Care4All has launched its Christmas Shoebox Appeal, inviting people to decorate and fill a shoebox with small gifts for the elderly. And I'm joined now by Lindsay Blow from the charity to tell me how people can make a difference. Lindsay, thanks very much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Shoebox appeals. Now, we've come across these things before, sending shoeboxes to children in Africa and places like that, but,
Yes.
but I've not come across one for the elderly before.
Okay. Well, this is the second year we've run our own shoebox appeal. We deliver meals to the elderly 365 days a year. A lot of our elderly have Christmas dinners delivered. And for a lot of those people, we are the only people they see on Christmas Day. So they don't have relatives, they have very few friends. So we are running an appeal to present them with each with a gift of a shoebox full of all different goodies to brighten up the day.
And if people want to take part or make a contribution to the Shoebox Appeal, presumably, well, the first thing they need to do is get themselves a shoebox.
That's right, yes. Or if they just want to donate just odd gifts, if they want to bring them into our offices, then we can fill the shoeboxes ourselves.
What sort of things would you, if you imagine yourself to be one of these rather old people who living alone, looking forward to a bit of company on Christmas Day, what would you want to find in that box?
Oh, I think some nice chocolates, maybe some shortbread biscuits. Scarves are popular, gloves, some socks, some nice hand cream maybe, or handkerchiefs, just little treats really.
Yeah?
Yep.
I just want a bottle of scotch. Thanks very much. And a Christmas in front of the James Bond film. That sounds perfect to me.
It sounds perfect to me too.
Well, so if people do want to bring little presents, things like that, as you mentioned, or a bottle of scotch indeed, Care4All, it's based on Dudley Street, isn't it, in Grimsby?
It's Durban Road at Care4All Library.
All right.
Yes.
Okay, people just rock up there and leave things for you?
Absolutely, yes. We're launching the Shoebox Appeal from today, so anytime you want to pop by and drop something off, they'd be very welcome.
Now, you did mention the number of people you look after with Meals on Wheels and things like that. How many is it that you help?
We deliver over 1,000 meals a week.
So 1,000 meals a week, that's quite a large operation, isn't it? That's a sort of logistical nightmare just to get people around.
It is. It does take some planning, yes. We've recently launched a tea time service as well.
So
I
think
quite,
you may have mentioned that last week, Lindsay,
I think I may
different
have.
context.
Yes. So yeah, it's a very busy service.
And the shoebox thing, it's comes at no expense, I presume. It's
No,
cost
absolutely not. No, they're just delivered. We take them out on Christmas Day when we deliver a Christmas meal for our elderly, and it's just as a surprise for them. And it makes them think that people are thinking of them on that special day.
Now, how is it that we have so many people who are getting on a bit and living on their own? That seems rather sad.
I think it is very sad. I mean, not everybody has families of their own. They don't have children. As people get older, unfortunately, they start to lose their friends. Lack of mobility makes people isolated in their own homes, unable to go out and visit people. So by the time they're in need of Meals on Wheels, often we are the only people that they see on a regular basis.
It's just a sort of natural rate of attrition of mortality, I guess, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
That's the way it works.
Yes, unfortunately.
Now, the people, boxes, as it were, are not just for Christmas, but for life, or at least looking after people and making them feel a bit more cheerful. What other sort of activities would you recommend?
Well, visiting the elderly, obviously, if you can spare some time to visit them, people are always grateful. I know our customers really look forward to having the meals delivered and to have a little chat with the drivers. Our drivers are a fantastic team, always willing to have a chat and do little errands for the customers. It's really like one big happy family. And I know that these shoe boxes make such a difference. It really does bring a smile to people's faces and makes them feel included in the festive period.
Okay, and again, I'll just get you to repeat that address. If people do want to contribute to the appeal, where should they send things?
Care4All Library, that's Durban Road in Grimsby.
Brilliant. Lindsay, thank you very much. I'm sure that'll be an absolute success. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Hugh.
Here's the sport with Jack.
We'll start with football, and in League One, Scunthorpe United secured a dramatic late 1-0 win over Bristol Rovers on Saturday. Midfielder Neil Bishop headed home deep into stoppage time to secure the all-important 3 points for Graham Alexander's side, who eventually found a way past the visiting defence. The Irons' third successive league victory keeps them in 5th place in the table with 29 points from 17 games. Midfielder Andrew Croft has welcomed the current competition in the squad.
I think every pro needs to have people challenging for you as you just become comfortable and stuff like that. So I've been lucky enough to be in teams where it's always been fighting for competition, and lucky enough wherever I've gone I've played regularly because I enjoy that, I thrive on stuff like that, and I think that's why you're successful. That's why I've had a successful career, because you always fight everything that I've had to get, I've had to fight for, and it's no different here. And like I said, I love that, I thrive on things like that, and I think everyone should.
Into League Two now, and Grimsby Town's recent poor form has continued as they lost 2-0 at Exeter City. Jayden Stockley and Liam McAlinden scored either side of half-time to condemn the Mariners to defeat down in South West Devon. Russell Slade's men have now failed to score in the last 4 league and cup games, and they haven't won since the 3-2 victory at Cheltenham on the 17th of October. Town sit 15th in the table on 23 points, 4 points off the playoff places. In Hull City news, midfielder Evandro made a return to action earlier today as he steps up his injury recovery. He got a 65-minute run out in a behind closed doors game against Bradford City at the club's training ground in Cottingham. The Brazilian hasn't played since limping out of a pre-season friendly against Bristol Rovers back in July. Fellow senior players David Marshall, Michael Hector and Michael Dawson also featured against the Bantams. In women's football, Hull City ladies are through to the next round of the FA Women's Cup. A hat-trick from Hope Knight added to Nat Bell's opening goal to give the Tigresses an impressive 4-1 victory away at Steel City Wanderers. The draw for the second round was made today and they will play Derby County away on the 3rd of December. And finally, in rugby union, Hallensians lost 11-29 at home to Scarborough. The visitors led 22-0 at the break, and despite a couple of late tries by Hallensians' Josh Langford, who was earlier sin-binned, Scarborough ran out to clinical winners. And that's all for the sport.
That's it for tonight. Thanks very much, Jack. If you've a story for us or any other comment or criticism or praise, then the details are on the screen, Facebook or Twitter. Email news@estuary.tv or phone Grimsby 01472 31553 or write to us at Estuary TV, Nuns Corner, Laceby Road, Grimsby, North East Lincolnshire, DN345BQ. Until tomorrow, from all of us here, good evening.